LETTER XLIII OF Clarissa Harlowe, or the History of a Young Lady, Vol. VIII. This is a Librivox recording. All Librivox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit Librivox.org. Recording by Nicole Lee. Clarissa Harlowe, or the History of a Young Lady, Vol. VIII. By Samuel Richardson. LETTER XLIII. Mr. Belford to Robert Lovelace, Esq. Thursday, 11 o'clock, August 31. I am just come from the lady, whom I left cheerful and serene. She thanked me for my communication of the preceding night. I read to her such parts of your letters as I could read to her; and I thought it was a good test to distinguish the froth and whipt syllabub in them from the cream, in what one could and could not read to a woman of so fine a mind; since 4 parts out of 6 of thy letters, which I thought entertaining as I read them to myself, appeared to me, when I should have read them to her, most abominable stuff, and gave me a very contemptible idea of thy talents, and of my own judgment. She as far from rejoicing as I had done at the disappointment her letter gave you when explained. She said she meant only an innocent allegory, which might carry instruction and warning to you, when the meaning was taken, as well as answer her own hopes for the time. It was run off in a hurry. She was afraid it was not quite right in her; but hoped the end would excuse, if it could not justify, the means. And then she again expressed a good deal of apprehension, lest you should still take it into your head to molest her, when her time, she said, was so short, that she wanted every moment of it; repeating what she had once said before, that, when she wrote, she was so ill that she believed she should not have lived till now. If she had thought she should, she must have studied for an expedient that would have better answered her intentions; hinting at a removal out of the knowledge of us both. But she was much pleased that the conference between you and Colonel Morden, after 2 or 3 such violent sallies as I acquainted her you had had between you, ended so amicably; and said she must absolutely depend upon the promise I had given her to use my utmost endeavours to prevent further mischief on her account. She was pleased with the justice you did her character to her cousin. She was glad to hear that he had so kind an opinion of her, and that he would write to her. I was under an unnecessary concern how to break to her that I had the copy of Brand's vile letter. Unnecessary, I say, for she took it just as you thought she would, as an excuse she wished to have for the implacableness of her friends, and begged I would let her read it herself; for, said she, the contents cannot disturb me, be they what they will. I gave it to her, and she read it to herself, a tear now and then being ready to start, and a sigh sometimes interposing. She gave me back the letter with great and surprising calmness, considering the subject. There was a time, said she, and that not long since, when such a letter as this would have greatly pained me. But I hope I have now got above all these things; and I can refer to your kind offices, and to those of Miss Howe, the justice that will be done to my memory among my friends. There is a good and a bad light in which every thing that befalls us may be taken. If the human mind will busy itself to make the worst of every disagreeable occurrence, it will never want woe. This letter, affecting as the subject of it is to my reputation, gives me more pleasure than pain, because I can gather from it, that had not my friends been prepossessed by misinformed or rash and officious persons, who are always at hand to flatter or soothe the passions of the affluent, they could not have been so immovably determined against me. But now they are sufficiently cleared from every imputation of unforgivingness; for, while I appeared to them in the character of a vile hypocrite, pretending to true penitence, yet giving up myself to profligate courses, how could I expect either their pardon or blessing? But, Madam, said I, you'll see by the date of this letter, that their severity, previous to that, cannot be excused by it. It imports me much, replied she, on account of my present wishes, as to the office you are so kind to undertake, that you should not think harshly of my friends. I must own to you, that I have been apt sometimes myself to think them not only severe but cruel. Suffering minds will be partial to their own cause and merits. Knowing their own hearts, if sincere, they are apt to murmur when harshly treated. But if they are not believed to be innocent, by persons who have a right to decide upon their conduct according to their own judgments, how can it be helped? Besides, Sir, how do you know that they are not about my friends as well meaning misrepresenters as Mr. Brand really seems to be? But, be this as it will, there is no doubt that there are and have been multitudes of persons as innocent as myself, who have suffered upon surmises as little probable as those on which Mr. Brand founds his judgment. Your intimacy, Sir, with Mr. Lovelace, and, may I say, a character which, it seems, you have been less solicitous formerly to justify than perhaps you will be for the future, and your frequent visits to me, may well be thought to be questionable circumstances in my conduct. I could only admire her in silence. But you see, Sir, proceeded she, how necessary it is for young people of our sex to be careful of our company; and how much, at the same time, it behoves young persons of yours to be chary of their own reputation, were it only for the sake of such of ours as they may mean honourably by, and who otherwise may suffer in their good names for being seen in their company. As to Mr. Brand, continued she, he is to be pitied: and let me enjoin you, Mr. Belford, not to take any resentments against him, which may be detrimental either to his person or his fortunes. Let his function and his good meaning plead for him. He will have concern enough, when he finds every body whose displeasure I now labour under acquitting my memory of perverse guilt, and joining in a general pity for me. This, Lovelace, is the woman whose life thou hast curtailed in the blossom of it. How many opportunities must thou have had of admiring her inestimable worth, yet couldst have thy senses so much absorbed in the woman, in her charming person, as to be blind to the angel that shines out in such full glory in her mind! Indeed, I have ever thought myself, when blessed with her conversation, in the company of a real angel: and I am sure it would be impossible for me, were she to be as beautiful, and as crimsoned over with health, as I have seen her, to have the least thought of sex, when I heard her talk. Thursday, 3 o'clock, August 31. On my re visit to the lady, I found her almost as much a sufferer from joy as she had sometimes been from grief; for she had just received a very kind letter from her cousin Morden, which she was so good as to communicate to me. As she had already begun to answer it, I begged leave to attend her in the evening, that I might not interrupt her in it. The letter is a very tender one: but, alas! all will be now too late; for the decree is certainly gone out. The world is unworthy of her. LETTER XLIV